Welcome to the Co-Host Bros Podcast, where we break down everything short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, and building a profitable hospitality business. Whether you're a host, investor, or property manager, we share real strategies, real insights, and real experiences to help you scale smarter and grow faster. Let's dive in.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Bros Podcast. My name is Matt Codd. I'm here with Austin Spitzenberger, and today we have Chelsea Cutrer on the podcast. So what is going on, Chelsea? I got it right. Ooh.
Woohoo! Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been dying to get you on because you answer like every single Facebook post with an answer that's right. And we're like, yeah, she knows all the answers.
That is so funny. Yeah, I have met quite a few people just online in the different groups.
Yeah, it's like weird. I don't even know how, but like you're one of the people for some reason. I actually get notifications when you post in like Bill's group. It'll say like I don't even know how I get these notifications, and I know it's valuable, but I don't really want them. But it always says Chelsea commented here. It's like, all right, let's go check it out. I don't know. It's weird, but I think that's just a testament to how much value you add. And all that good stuff. But yeah, for our listeners and people that maybe don't know so much about you, give us a quick rundown of what it is kind of you do and how you kind of got into the vacation rental space.
Yeah, so during COVID, I think we were supposed to go to maybe the Bahamas, I think is what it was, and our flight got delayed, or I guess canceled. They wouldn't let you fly. And so we had some friends that invited us out to 30A. And we're just like, Florida doesn't have COVID. Let's all go out there. We'll have a great vacation. So 3 or 4 families went and rented this huge house in Watercolor, Florida. And we just had the best time. And then after that, you know, the family that we went, they said, we come out here all the time. We're thinking about buying a house out here. And, you know, next thing you knew, we're buying a house out there. And we just thought at first, oh, we'll rent it out. It'll pay for itself. It'll be like a second home and that sort of thing. And obviously we did it for the tax write-offs. We were both very successful in sort of the tech industry, needed the tax write-offs. And after that first one, we're like, oh, maybe we should buy another one. And so that first year, actually, we were using a property manager. And that's kind of how I learned property management is actually hiring sort of this higher end property manager in the area. And then I started buying more and designing them, and you know, I've just found success that way.
So where did you live during the COVID times, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so we are in Austin, Texas.
Okay. I was in California. It was pretty shut down. So awesome.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah. So you got into property management. So I see you're killing it. I mean, over in 30A, Austin was saying earlier offline that he had talked to you about it like a year ago or something, and now you have a massive explosion of properties. You can't keep up. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So Austin and I probably spoke about a year ago, and I was sort of doing my own thing. So I think I was going from 2 of my own to 4. And at that time, I was leaving full time to do this. But more people were asking me, hey, can you help me manage, or can I consult with you? Because it was kind of at that point where, you know, you couldn't keep doing what you were doing. If you had a property that was successful 5 years ago, it probably wasn't successful if you haven't done anything with it. So more people were saying, hey, you're finding a lot of success. Can you help us? And so it's interesting. I never really intentionally went into property management. Like I didn't really go into it. It's crazy because my husband's like, we don't need the money. Like, don't help anybody else. Like, we don't need to do this. You don't need to work all these hours. But, you know, I just love it. Like, I'm a mad woman. I'm always like working on projects and doing things, and it just kind of gets me going.
That's awesome. So you just liked it so much that you just said, I'm going to quit my job and do this instead. And
Yes, pretty much.
That's wild.
I've been probably thinking about it for a couple years, and he's like, you love this so much. Like, you don't need to mess with this tech stuff. Like, you just need to go for what you're really interested in. Like, don't worry about, is it going to work? Are you going to be successful? Like, you'll be fine. So he was the one I would say that kind of pushed me to say, hey, I'm going to leave. This is what I'm going to do.
What does he think about it now?
Oh my gosh. I would say we're both doing stuff now that we love, but I would say the flip side is he thinks I should do less, because I'm like, I'll live in a home and remodel it and like, hey, let's turn this into a short-term rental. And he's like, no, I want stability. I want to be in a house that we're not constantly remodeling and working on a project. And, and then, people reach out for me to manage their properties. It's like, you don't need any more properties. Like, tell them no.
So
that's crazy.
What does your portfolio look like today? Since you started taking on clients for management?
Yeah, so I have about 25 to 30. It's kind of interesting because I'm always working. Like, we're about to close on another one Friday, and it's a Gulfront, like 2-bed condo that I'm going to completely remodel. But I really love projects like that. A lot of people shy away from just really having a vision and changing floor plans and just gutting stuff. And I love that. And I have a really good contractor and we work really well together. So I'd say 25 to 30, but I think I resonate a lot with what you've said and some of the stuff that we've talked about is, more is not better. So it's after we just got through the really, really busy season. And so I'm kind of thinking about this past year and how I grew my business really fast. And I'm thinking, okay, how do I want to change the portfolio, sort of my go-to-market and the people that I service? And so now I'm doing more like higher end clientele. I'm saying no a lot more than I'm saying yes. I'm trying to think back of, okay, how many service calls did we get on some of these properties? Were the owners a pain in the butt, or the place is well maintained? Because I was actually ranked top 5 in 30A for reviews and volume. And so if I take on a client, maybe their property isn't updated as much, then I just know, I'm not going to get as good of reviews. I'm going to get more complaints. It's going to be more of my time. So that's one thing I've thought about going into this next year as sort of a strategy. Do I want to continue to add, or like get rid of some of the lower end and go to the higher end? And then obviously we're adding to our own portfolio. So that's something I'm constantly thinking about.
Yeah, so that's crazy. The growth is what I'm very interested in. So I kind of want to hone in on that. Like, when you added all these properties to your portfolio for management, and we can get into the nuts and bolts of like kind of what you've learned and some of the stuff like that. But what would you say was the biggest thing that kind of moved the needle from like gaining these properties so quickly? Was it word of mouth? Did you do any kind of marketing? Was it networking with realtors? Because you had to do something right. And my guess is you did one thing, you did one thing really, really well. But I don't know what that one thing is. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think it was just word of mouth. I'm really active on a lot of like local Facebook groups. And so a lot of people came to me, and I would say I really specialize in people that were struggling, saying, hey, I'm getting bad reviews. I'm working with XYZ. We're losing money. Like, we're losing $7,000 a month. And so I'm able to really come in and say, okay, these are the amenities you've got to add. We need to redesign this place, and this is the vision that we need to go. And in fact, I worked with this guy last winter, and he was losing $7,000 a month. And he's married to this Italian woman. Super, they're like the most darling couple, but she loves like that like Tuscan villa feel. And so sometimes I'm very honest with people. I would say that's the difference between me and other people. I'm like, the Tuscan feel does not go with the beach. Like, people want light and bright. We need to paint these white. I'm sorry that you just painted them tan, but this isn't going to do it. So I'm like, do you want to make money, or do you want the tan walls?
Yeah, right.
And so the people that have been able to like dive all in and say, hey, I believe your vision, let's go for it. And then we can get it turned around. And so the people that listen and will follow my direction can be very successful. It's the people that say they will do it and only like dip their toe in it that it's like, okay, this isn't working, because some people are waiting for the bookings before they invest. And I'm like, no, you need to invest to get the bookings. Like, I don't have years to wait. Like, let's go. Like, jump on the train. So I'd say that's how I'm a little different, is I don't just take on listings. I'm like, this is what we need to do to be successful, or these are the ones you should buy. So now I'm selling as well, but I'm helping. But a lot of it's from them getting into bad deals. Like, tons of these realtors are just selling stuff. And then I come in and I'm like, who sold you this? And how much did they say you could make? Like, this is a terrible area.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you just like problems. No, I'm just kidding. So you go down and you do a lot of the work yourself. Like you're like really involved in those kind of remodel things when you guys are remodeling their houses and things like that.
Yeah, so I do all of the design on our personal ones. I've done clients, but it's interesting. I'm starting to like bring in more people just because I'm like so busy. I'm like, this could take weeks of my time. So now I'm having to utilize other people, which is, a whole other thing, is I don't have time for all this. But yeah, I love that stuff. But yeah, it goes back to my husband saying, you are too involved in all that.
It's funny because the problems that you're saying that those people are having, it's like the same problems in almost every market, right? It's like the same problem. Like, you lived in Austin, same problem in Galveston. I'm in Galveston, and it's like, oh, I just bought this because I thought I was just going to make a bunch of money. I'm not going to do anything to it. And it's like, you're like, oh, I need sheets. You need some sheets. And it's like, what do you mean I need sheets? Come on. Like, really? Like, it's just, people just think they're going to put it there and make money. And I know Austin had the same issue in the Canyon Lake area, with people like that. So, I mean, how do you plan on pruning your portfolio? How do you plan on reducing that? Do you have an execution plan, or what are you thinking of trying to do?
Well, yeah, y'all know that song, or not the song, the book, The Pumpkin Plan,
Great
or
book.
whatever. So obviously been listening to that, but just thinking, it's interesting on like my lower performers, for one reason or another. It's because they don't have the updates. Or maybe it's something that I picked up kind of early on, but it's not a property I would want to stay in, or it doesn't really have the amenities or the location. I'm like, if I can invest the same amount of time in a higher end, like watercolor property, or even the existing portfolio, I can be better off with fewer properties, and have more time to do other stuff. So that's what I'm constantly thinking about. I'd say the problem is nobody wants to leave. Like, everybody thinks I do a great job. No one wants to leave. So that's probably the hardest part is trying to make those business decisions and have those tough conversations when it comes to, my business and growing it.
Yeah, I think we're kind of going through the same thing. And like in the beginning phases, when you get started, you say yes to a lot of things, and that's what you need to do to get the ball rolling. But then, exactly, you mentioned the Pumpkin Plan, which I love that book. We read it together as a team, and we actively implemented into our business. This was kind of like our essentially rebuilding year of what we're doing, and we've pumpkin planned a lot of people. So I completely resonate with what you're saying of like, people don't necessarily want to leave, but it's kind of like that thing that's like, hey, yes, but those are the people that might be holding you back, because you might have three or four 50K gross revenue properties, but you're like, man, like, I'm the kind of manager now that manages 200K properties plus, so I could get rid of those four and change it for one, and then your life is just better. So how is that something like you're actively trying to do, or you're just kind of like wrapping your brain around it? Because I think it's been kind of night and day transition since we kind of done that.
Yeah, I do have a short list, and I do have sort of a runway where, hey, I've got to make the transition now that we're in slow season. This is the perfect opportunity. And a couple of these people are trying to sell as well. And so for me, that doesn't really work well for my business, of like their agent constantly asking for door codes and can they show? And then when they do, oh my gosh, it's not clean. And then if it is clean, I've got to get somebody back over there to like clean up because they've, had an open house. And I'm just like, I don't have time for all this. And, I need to focus on these being really successful, or even my own portfolio. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, especially now that I have, our 5th STR coming and remodeling kind of in the thick of it. So yeah, sort of I would say what I'm doing now is, just as an example, I'm currently working with an investor in New York. So we found an awesome condo. So I'm going to help him design it, and then I'm going to manage it for him. So the reason I added sort of the selling is not to just sell residential and everything else, but it's to help the people that have already sort of working with me to find stuff to manage that I know will be successful and kind of fit my mold, versus like me coming in and saying, this is not what I would normally manage,
Yeah.
And
Are you
let's
are
just
you
pick
like
a.
so you're saying you're like an agent out there as well? Okay.
Yes. So now I'm looking. I have like a list. So I'm like, people want to add to their portfolio or people want to work with me, and so I'm helping people find the deals. I would say in 30A, it's hard to find stuff that'll cash flow, and you have to jump on stuff. And so I would say that's what I'm really good at.
And is that market you need to be like an agent broker to do you need to have that you need to be under a brokerage to do property management there or not? I just know Texas rules.
Yeah, you don't, but I had to have, or I have to have my hotel. It's basically a hotel license. So I do have that license, but I thought it would be good to have the broker license, eventually. So I was like, let me go ahead and get the agent license. And so that's kind of where we ended up with. I kept getting more requests. Well, can you help me find deals? And it's interesting because agents were calling saying, okay, with this cash flow, is this a good deal? And I'm like, well, I'm doing all the work.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
I
hopes
just
that
want to get the license.
with the hopes that like they will but when you partner with these people, I mean they're going to try and push the management towards you anyways, right? Because you're helping them get the deal to the finish line, right? Or are they not
Yeah,
necessarily open to doing that? Like I would assume like, hey, if I'm underwriting this is under like my boutique really good management, this is what it could do. So then eventually, I mean, hopefully
right.
that deal would end up coming to you. And I guess if you do both, you can represent the deal and do the management. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting now that I have my license and I'm doing more deals. I kind of find out why people end up in bad situations as well. So you have these agents that are just selling stuff locally. And then as soon as you go under contract, you have all these property management companies saying, refer us and get money, refer, if it's worth this, get money. So they're doing all these referrals. So then it's like they're getting in a bad deal to begin with. And then they're referring to someone that's probably not any good because they're just looking for, all their business is just run on referrals of like spiffing people basically. And then, after like 9 months or a year, the people are like, we didn't make any money. And it's like, okay, because you bought from someone that doesn't own any STRs or do any STRs. And then they referred you to someone that just works on like referrals.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting deal for sure.
Yeah. I remember when I bought a beach house, and then I was like, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, maybe I can make some money on it. And I asked the realtor, like, oh, how much will this make? And he's like, oh, it'll make this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Cause I didn't know anything. And then I was like, yeah, it's not making this. Like, this doesn't, I mean, I did it myself, but at the same time, it was like, it took a lot to make what he said it would make, like a lot more than what I thought. And, yeah, is crazy. But yeah, a few years back, we were over there in Gulf Shores. I love Gulf Shores. It's great. And we were actually doing an exercise where we're underwriting properties to try to find, like, it's just basically a competition who could find like the most profitable property, And it ended up at that time with everything on the market, it ended up being like a condo. Like it wasn't even like a beachfront because the beachfront's just so expensive. It wasn't, worth it. What kind of properties are you seeing that are profitable nowadays in those markets?
Yeah, so I would say with the current interest rates, it probably is condos along 30A. And it's interesting. I've seen a ton of success, and I have several condos that do really well because the whole 30A thing is like if you have a private beach or public beach, that's the whole thing right now. You could actually come to 30A expecting to go to the beach, and you could probably see the beach, but you actually can't go to that beach. So you have to be super careful, even where you rent, and buy, that there's all these regulations of which beach you can go to. And then the beach that you could go to, there could be no parking. it could be super crowded. So I would say condos, I'm having a ton of success for cash flow. I would say houses, appreciation, the cash flow is still really good. But as far as like ratios and cash flow, I'd say condos. But I tell people, it's interesting. Someone was like, well, would you give me a discount on your fees, your management fees, because it's a condo versus a house? And I was like, absolutely not, because a condo is actually more work for me. The condos here are more like hotels. So you constantly have people checking in and out. There's way more turns. A house is going to be more money and less work. You're going to have these big groups. They're going to pay lots of money and you're not going to hear from them as much. I'd say most of them have a golf cart, which can be kind of a pain. But so I actually have a mix, I would say, in my portfolio. But right now, I'd say that condos are cash flowing pretty well, especially if there's a view or they're on the Gulf. But again, it really depends. I think you've seen all these Facebook groups and people are like looking for a place to buy, but they think, oh, let's just buy in 30A or let's just buy in Gulf Shores or let's just, it's like, okay, wait, it depends on what it is. Like, don't just buy whatever you see out there. So
yeah, if you got it like that, go ahead. But I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy. And I might buy in Gulf Shore someday when I got it like that. That's, I don't want to, I mean, I'm not going to rent it out. You know what I mean? But so are you planning on just staying on the Alabama Gulf there? Are you planning on, or are you managing properties or buying properties in other areas besides just, you know, in the Alabama Gulf or?
Yeah, so it's interesting. 30A is between Destin and Panama City Beach, and I've been super selective and just staying in the 30A, but it's interesting. I actually got a referral the other day of this mom daughter. One of them's buying in Destin in Crystal Beach, which I love. I've been kind of like looking out there. And then one bought this awesome like condo that's on a corner with beautiful views in Panama City Beach. And they're like, we want you to manage. And so I'm kind of like at a cross path, like, okay, do I take on these properties? Do I just stick to 30A? So I've thought about different areas, but and they're probably like 30 or 45 minutes away from the other one, so it's not like they're crazy. But also the economies of scale and staying close. Like my cleaners can hit like one condo, another, like they can do 4 or 5 cleans in a day, and have all the supply. It's just easier. I'm thinking about actually getting an extra golf cart just to have when someone's breaks down, but also like renting it out. But all of them are like within a couple miles, you know, for the places that don't have golf carts. So it just kind of opens up something a little different when they start getting spread out. But yeah, I've just focused on the one area for now.
Should we call Joe Austin and tell him that Chelsea's trying to get his territory? I'm just kidding.
No, I think there's so much
plenty to go around.
There's plenty.
Yeah, there's so many probably managers out there that have, you know, thousands of units in their inventory that you guys could help. You know, not even scratch the surface of the amount of people that you can help. But yeah, I was thinking about what you're saying, and I guess it kind of comes down. People don't realize that the economies of scale behind things of like, man, maybe logistically you have to get a new cleaner, and there's power in like being in kind of like one location where all your units are, and there's obviously a learning curve to that. So the question is like, okay, what does your long term goals look like? Can you? How much is that property going to bring in too? Like that's another question you got to ask yourself. Should you go into another market if the commission you're going to make off that property is 10K? Probably not, right? But if the
Right.
commission you're going to make on that property is 40K, like, okay, well, maybe that's good. And then I'll go after the neighbors, right? Like, I don't know. That's the questions you kind of have to ask yourself, but it is kind of tough. Like when you're trying to think of like, hey, once you start adding onesie twosies in different markets, you could potentially make a mess. But based on what you're saying, 30 minutes away, that doesn't seem that bad.
Right. But the name of my company is 30A 5-star properties.
And Destin. And Destin. No. And beyond.
Yeah.
And beyond. There you go.
Wait, so what's the other market? Like what was the other market? 30A and then like you're saying PCB or something?
Yeah, PCB and the other one's Destin. So basically, yeah, 30A is kind of in the middle of both of those.
Yeah, well, you might just have to change your name and just be like doing business as, and then just change your website. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably an easy workaround if you decided to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's something I'm definitely, contemplating.
Did you ask your husband? No.
Oh, he would say, "No, you've got too much. Like you're good." Like
Absolutely not.
yeah.
So
I mean, so in management fees, I mean, I could probably do with those other two, like maybe another 40K or something. But he'd be like, "No, like you don't need 40K. Like you need to just tell them no."
Just tell him you're
yeah.
reconning for somewhere else to buy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I am. It's crazy. So we still have our Austin property. And I did find out, hey, we can short-term rental. It's an awesome house, great views, pool, all this. And I'm like, man, we can rent that one. And he's like, no, like, can we just have one that we don't rent out? And I'm like, well, if we're not using it, like, why would we not want to rent it out?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure you can get some good insurance claim money too, and some good midterms over there. I mean,
Oh gosh,
we
we
did
don't need any more insurance claims. We went through the big freeze back in 2021. Were you in Texas back then?
and then when it no, I came right after. Everybody told me about it. They were like, oh, "Wait,
Oh, it was nuts.
I moved here in November 2021, so that's when I came. But I guess there was a big freeze the year before or something, and everyone's like,
Yeah, like that February.
yeah, and everyone's like, you couldn't believe it. It was crazy, and I'm like, okay, they're scared of cold weather here. Cool, like, yeah, no, but I
It
mean,
was like a whole week or something where it was below freezing, and the houses just aren't built for
yeah,
that.
I heard the power was
So
out too.
basically, do what?
I heard the power was out for like a lot of people for like the whole week.
Oh yeah, yeah. So what happened was the water heater started exploding. Like everybody's house was flooding. The power lines were gone. Coming down trees. But what was interesting is, yeah, there's insurance, but there was no short-term rentals, midterm rentals that we could even find because everybody was in the hotels, everybody was in the other places, and so we were like camping in our house while it was getting remodeled and everything. So, ugh.
Yeah, I survived Hurricane Beryl. That's probably the biggest natural disaster I have had since I've been here. I mean, a lot of wildfires in California, so I've almost burnt alive a few times. But yeah, Hurricane Beryl, I mean, that was cool. Once I realized that my power was going to be out for more than one day, as soon as that was over, I bought a generator. I was like, okay, I learned my lesson. I'll never not have power again. But yeah, I mean, it was cool. It destroyed my other house, so it's like I learned something from it. So I got my house rebuilt over, in the Texas Gulf, and I lived just to fight another day. So it was cool though. I mean, I like that stuff. You learn things. It's good fun.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point. I think that's one thing that like Bill Faith talks about is he actually says don't have all your properties in one location because some natural disaster and like we saw in the Carolinas. And so that's something that's always in the back of my mind too is maybe I should be in a different location to diversify. A lot of people have like the mountains and the beach or something else in case something does happen like that.
Yeah, and there's some wild disasters, I mean, happening lately. Like you said, like North Carolina, OBX, I believe it was. The houses were going into the ocean.
That's been crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, that does make sense because like, what if something happened down there and all your houses got hit and then what, right? So
yeah, don't say that.
no, I know, but
say
yeah,
this year's been
my desk
this year's
wood.
been good, but yeah, in the past years, it's always like we're dodging hurricanes, during this time where people are freaking out calling, is there a hurricane coming? No, it's in a different part of Florida. You're good. So this year has been really nice not to be dodging hurricanes or, worrying about that as much.
Yeah, that was good.
So
were you about to say something, Austin?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, like, if you have an investment, an owned short-term rental in like the Austin area.
Yeah, so the house we used to live in is still in Austin. And what's interesting is it's like a really cool gated community, not, beautiful view. And I would have never guessed that you could actually short-term rental in there. But it's interesting when I talked to the HOA, they're like, oh yeah, there's no restrictions. And I'm like, this would be like the perfect house.
Yeah. So does that property perform good for you? And then like, I guess my follow-up question is like, you're going all the way out to Florida to do these projects. So I assume you're flying a lot. Is there any reason why you weren't interested in just managing more locally? I mean, obviously you started by buying STRs there. So I get why you you went there, but are you opposed to the Austin market managing there as well? Because you already do.
Yeah, so we're actually spending most of our time in Florida. We do come back some, but I thought about that before initially spending more time in Florida is do I just stay in Austin and get my license back and sort of manage kind of both and have like two different companies? And I kind of thought both, but I would say the market is so good in Florida in just 30A, and it's interesting. I would say a lot of people invest in Texas, and I think the one problem with Texas, and you guys will have to, you know way more about this than I do, but I feel like mostly people from Texas go to Texas.
Yep.
I would say the draw in Florida is just for instance, the spring breaks. You've got Louisiana with a different spring break, then you've got Tennessee, then you've got Mississippi, Alabama, Illinois, like more people from like the north are finding out they've got like more direct flights starting to come in. And so it's like this constant flow and it's super busy. I'd say from March through like the end of October, like so busy. So now I'm just like, now I can like get my breath going a little bit now that we're a little slower. So I would say that's something hard to give up. It's just like the amount of rent people are willing to pay, and like the constant flow of people wanting to come see, the most beautiful beaches in the US.
So
Yeah.
you currently live in Florida now. Is that what you're saying? Your primary home is in Florida?
Yeah, so we're mostly in Florida and then we've been coming back. And so that's why it's like, okay, why wouldn't we do something with the Texas house,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I assumed you still lived in Austin, so that actually does make a lot of sense and answers my question. But one thing I wanted to ask you is kind of like since you've had this great success of signing clients over the last let's say year or so, how has kind of your buy box of like what you say yes to now that you have 25, you're reevaluating the pumpkin plan. How has that changed and kind of like what does your buy box look like now of properties you take on for management?
Yeah. I would say my threshold is I want them to be able to do at least 100K in revenue. I want them to be updated or they're willing to make updates and then decent amenities and like distance to the beach. So I'm really trying to figure out too. And then I would say the owner as well. Like, is the owner going to be a micromanager or are they more of an investor? Or are they going to spend half the time, in their property? So just trying to figure all that out. I would say as my buy box. I'm still trying to figure that out. And I kind of go on a case by case basis. As you know, you can kind of feel them out the first one or two calls. Like, are they going to be really high maintenance? And I wouldn't say that all my clients are not high maintenance, but you're willing to do more for a nicer, better property, right? It's the ones that maybe don't produce a lot that are high maintenance that you're like, this just isn't going to work.
Yeah, and maybe you're willing to like lower your standards. So like you're like, okay, well, I got a really good vibe from this owner, but I said, I'm not going to take anything under 100K, but like I know this is a great property. It'll print 5-star reviews. It may only gross 80K, but the vibe from the owner makes like one category. It doesn't meet for one category, but you're like, okay, well, maybe this is a good fit for us because the owner's great. So I like how you said that. I mean, that's a good point. It's kind of a case by case basis, right?
Right. Really figuring out, okay, what it is. And I kind of go on and see like what the current reviews are and kind of what the listing looks like. It was interesting. There was someone that approached me that was a condo, and I'm not doing a lot if they're not Gulf front anymore. But this particular one, I think they originally built them as apartments, but they sold them as condos. And all the reviews were like, you can hear people through the walls and the ceilings. And like, you could just tell the walls were so thin that I was like, I had to pass. Not one, because the revenue wasn't going to be there, but two, I was like, this sounds like a nightmare. There's stuff wrong with this property that you can't even fix.
Yeah. We're going to need you to soundproof this.
Right. It's like, what do you do? I mean,
Yeah. You're totally right too about like the Texas market. I like 90% of it is drive-in. Almost even in Galveston. I mean, yeah, people do fly and come to Galveston, but it's mostly drive-in. The best thing about the Texas market though is you know exactly who to market to. So it's like if I'm marketing and like if I'm running like a Facebook ads or something, and I'm marketing Galveston, I can run it to Austin and Houston and the big cities, and that'll drive traffic because they're like, oh shit, I can drive 4 hours and go to the beach for the weekend, right? So that's the best thing about it. But yeah, if you decide to open up in Austin, I mean, metro markets are totally different than like metro markets are weird. Like they really are. Like they're just a weird thing, and it's like you never know why somebody's coming. So you're like, oh, it's like, oh, I'm here for a conference. Oh, I'm here for this. I'm here for that. You're like, it's not as predictable.
Bachelorette party.
Yeah.
Yeah, bachelorette party.
2-day minimums on the weekends, everybody. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and I think what happened to in Austin, it was interesting because I used to want to get in the Austin market and thought it was a good market. And I think it used to be, but then they sort of opened it up where anybody could get a permit. Well, that actually hurt because then there's so many units available that the competition is crazy.
Yeah.
And then, everybody's complaining. I'm still on like a bunch of the Austin sites. So people are complaining about bookings. And so it's much more competitive. And I see these beautiful listings because some people be like, oh, it's probably the listing. It needs to look beautiful. And you look at the listing and you're like, okay, they used a professional designer. It's in like a pretty good location. And look at the calendar. Like, this is scary.
Yeah, backyard's badass and everything. You're like, wow, everything's really nice here. Why isn't it getting booked? Yeah, they just opened up permitting in Houston. So I'm hoping that knocks out a lot of arbitrage people because the owners are going to have to sign, explicit things saying that, they'll be held responsible if something bad happens. And I don't see a lot of landlords doing that. And next year, FIFA's coming. We get the World Cup. So you might want to open your Austin house for FIFA, between June and July 4th. Houston's going to do a 28-day fan fest, and it may trickle down that way because it's not too far.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so you never know what's going to happen. But, yeah, metro markets are a different beast. I do see a lot of nice listings in Austin that just sit there. I've seen a lot of nice listings too in Buckingham Lake. I think it's like outside of Austin, maybe. But yeah, and I think Austin, are you seeing the similar thing in Canyon Lake too?
Yeah, I mean, Canyon Lake's just not like that's a market we're trying to kind of get out of. I mean, we don't have. I don't even know how many I think we like looked at the other day. Maybe we have like 15 to 20 listings there. I mean, in that market specifically, if we're going to take anything on, man, it has to be good owners. It has to at least do over 75K. It needs to have like a pool. Well, it'd have to have a pool to probably do over 75K in the first place. And I just think it's not a good long-term play. It's like we can keep a few there that we have that make money, but that's one of the areas, as we discussed earlier, Chelsea, of like where we want a pumpkin plan. So we're more aggressively trying to grow on the coast, which we have some coming on in like the Port Aransas, Rockport, Corpus Christi area. There's a lot of big box managers there that we can come in and do a better job than because obviously we're boutique and smaller. But there's a lot of properties that do make over 100K. They necessarily don't have to be beachfront. They can have a pool and still do really good numbers. So I like that market. Plus, we're already there. We've just been on the fence of like kind of teeter-tottering of like, is this a market that we want to double down and expand in or not? And then ever since kind of like the central Texas area, based on what you guys were talking about, has kind of collapsed a little bit. And there's this oversaturation of listings. And it's even like you guys said, the houses are really nice. And you're like, man, if you didn't know any better, you're like, that's a 250K house. And you're like, that's like a 65K house, right?
Yeah.
So we have some badass listings out there. And then whenever you look at the financials on the back end, it's like they do okay, and we still are at the 90 percentile within revenue management. So like we're kicking ass for what it is. It's just that the market isn't the market. So like that's what we've been battling of like, hey, we've got to go get more houses that can make bring in over 6 figures, and those are in other markets. So that's kind of a pivot and transition that we've had to go through. But I think I do like the coast, and I do like that little area there, and it's not too far away. And the fact that we're already there, we can kind of scale. But
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how did you guys feel after you sort of did the pumpkin plan? Are you seeing a lot of success?
Yeah, I think
now that you've let some of those go?
Yeah, I think we did like a more casual version of it. Like we definitely did it. Like this year we probably dropped just rough ballpark, probably 20 properties, but we've added maybe 10. So the 10
Yeah.
that we've added though, like I would say their revenue is significantly higher per unit. So like we're always looking at it. So we'll probably do 5 more by the end of the year. And then we probably won't revisit it until the end of next year. But, we had properties in our inventory doing 30, 40K gross. And it's like things we said yes to 4 or 5 years ago that we wouldn't say yes to now. Exactly what you're going through. And I think everybody has to have this realization when they're going through it. It's like you got to say yes to get your reps in, and then you got to get rid of those later. And it sucks, right? It sucks to say that, but it's part of the business. And if you want to offer the best quality product, you need to make money. Like you have to make money, and you can't hold on to these sandbag properties. So, yeah, long story short, that's kind of what we've done. What I'm always looking at per quarter is, okay, what are we selling and what are we dropping? Because as long as we're overselling, like say we add for the quarter 800,000 in revenue, well, let's find 300 to 400 to cut. So that's kind of the way we've been looking at it, and I think we've gone down. We've gone since last year. We've gone down in booking size, but we've added $1 million in bookings. But we got smaller as a company. So I think
Yeah.
we do want to get bigger in regards to units. We just want to add the right units over time and kind of stick to like the things that we talked about. Like what is our buy box, and let's kind of live by that. Because you get to a point where people keep asking you to do this and you feel bad saying no. So you got to get out of your people pleaser mind frame of like, hey, Chelsea, we really want to work with you. We've seen all your Facebook comments. You're the best. But you're like, okay, I'll help you. But you shouldn't say yes to that, right? So that's the hard battle and the hard realization of like really learning to tell people no. And I think at some point, there's a point where people are like, okay, I said yes to the first 10. Like, let's start to refine what we take on. So I think that's kind of what we've been going through over the last year. And I think it's always, and I listen, and I talk to a lot of other managers of our size and larger. And a common thing that they all do is they drop like 5 to 10% of their inventory at the end of the year. Bad owners, properties that are not making them money, certain things like that, where they're like, hey, we've got to shave off 5 to 10% just for us to be able to be better operators. So that's my soapbox explanation there. But that's kind of what we've been going through over the last year.
I think it's hard though, because we're in the business of pleasing people, right? So it's like someone's like, "Will you help me?" And you're like, "God, I really want to help you." You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like
100%.
it's tough, right? I mean, yeah,
And sometimes you're like, it's not that bad.
yeah, it's not that bad. And the first booking goes really wrong, and the owner's like messaging you like, "Okay, yeah, it's bad. That's a bad idea."
Like this is why we were thinking about getting rid of this one.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
you're
you
like,
start
"Shit."
you have that little voice on your shoulder that starts justifying why you should do it. Well, it would make a little bit of money. Well, it's in a decent location. Once you start negotiating with yourself, that's when you got to tell that little voice like, "Hey, man, you said what you said. You got to do what you got to do," and that's what it is. But yeah.
It'd be bad for
Anyways,
me because my situation is like me and my wife would discuss it, and she'd be like, "No, don't do it," and I'd do it anyway, and then she'd be like, "I told you so." I'm like, fuck.
well, I will
You
say
know?
this. No, I will say this. There is no sympathy for anyone, and it'll happen regardless of how good of an operator you are, of having disrespectful owners. There's no sympathy for things like that. Like it doesn't matter how much your property makes. If you're disrespectful to the team, you're disrespectful to me. Anybody like if you're just not a good person to work with, like you're fired, and that doesn't matter. It's the good people, and I think for the most part, our industry is the hospitality industry is filled with good people that genuinely want to provide something, an experience to people. So people are good for the most part, but there's always that bad egg owner. And I think that, you should never jeopardize, your dignity and your self-worth for somebody that's going to be rude and disrespectful. You just fire them. Like no questions asked. I mean, we've had to let go of an owner that,
Absolutely.
yeah, we had an owner that made could combine their two properties would be like 200 grand. So like that's $40,000. Well, let's say that's the gross revenue. So we charge on rent. So let's say it's $30,000 a year they paid us. They were just a nutcase, and it was just crazy. And we were just like, dude, this is not worth it. It was like 2 or 3 strikes, and it was like strike one, strike two. Okay, this isn't going to work, and we just fired him. And the team is great and team is happy. I heard on a podcast the other day that I thought was really cool from another manager. Every quarter, they talk to their team and they say, choose one owner that's giving you the biggest problems that you don't like working with. And they tell their back end team and they vote and they let that client go. And I think at scale, when you have,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And I think but this is like probably somebody that had hundreds of units, right? So there's plenty of those probably floating around in their portfolio. But I thought that was an interesting one. And I was like, maybe we should implement
Like
that once a quarter.
Survivor.
Yeah, once a quarter.
Yeah.
And then it's just like,
we're voting you off the island, sir. I'm sorry.
I thought that was
You
cool.
better be nice.
Because at the end of the day, if it gets to me or it gets to anybody in the leadership, it's probably a bigger problem. So like the people at the ground floor, the VAs and stuff like that, they're the ones taking it, and we probably don't even know about it. So if I reached out and asked them, said, "Hey, like, oh, I didn't even know that person was a problem because I'm not involved in these, lower level decisions." And then it's like, okay, well, I didn't realize that they were making this not enjoyable for you. So like, let's do something about that. I don't know. I like it. We haven't implemented it, but I sent it to my team and they're like, yeah, that's interesting.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, good on you. Yeah, I agree. I left the tech space to do something I really enjoy. And so yeah, I actually had a conversation with one owner and they convinced me to keep them. But I was kind of like that too, like, hey, I want to be in something I really enjoy and you're not bringing me joy right now. So I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. 100%.
Please keep me. You're like 5% more. No. So speaking of team and the VA, what does your team look like? Are you the team or?
You're looking at her. No, so I do have one full-time VA. It's kind of interesting though because I do use Host Buddy AI, which is amazing, and it's just so fast and up to speed, and can go through all your previous messages and just does an amazing job. I think where we struggle is Host Buddy kicks out the more difficult things to resolve. And so I wouldn't say they can resolve all those. They're very good at marketing and posting and that sort of thing, which I love. And so I think that's been my biggest struggle is to figure out as far as using AI and VAs and what else they can do, especially now that we're getting a lot slower. So I was even thinking about that, like, okay, let's make sure we've got all the welcome books. Let's doing stuff now that we're kind of in off season. Because I'd say that's the thing about our business is that we have high season and low season. And when it gets high season, we don't have time for anything. So now that it's a little slower, what can we be doing?
Yeah. And thank you for using our referral code. And if you didn't, everybody is co-host bros. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so I mean, I think it's great. I mean, Austin liked it too. I mean, I think sometimes the responses are a little bit weird, like when it comes to like harder things. And it's like, oh, we'll reach out to our maintenance team. And you're like, oh, yeah, I kind of need you to let me know about that one because it was kind of really important. And I actually want to reach out to the maintenance team, but I'm sleeping, or something like that. So I was going to ask you, like, what your plan was, like what you wanted, what your ultimate goal is, but I don't think you're sure yet. I think you will.
Well, it was interesting. I don't think that we've talked about this in just our conversation, where we were talking about clients and picking them. One thing that I think too is I'm a big time, and I would say big time, I'm an investor. So I'm trying to get to 10 million in portfolio, real estate portfolio. I think we'll be at about 8.5. But part of that too is I'm constantly thinking like my condos are doing so well and they're probably doing around 100 or so each. So which is really good for the investment and the design I've put in. But I'm constantly thinking, when these rates drop, should I, sell one of those and do like another $2 or $3 million property that'll do 300, and so have a smaller portfolio. But like my large house does like 275 a year. So what if I had like 4 that did 275 to like 400 instead of like more of these condos with like constant turning and check-ins, check-outs? I think my problem is whoever I sell it to is going to be like, let's keep the reviews. Can you keep managing it? So I'm like, okay, we'd be doing the work.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's
But it would diversify a little bit more. But I'm constantly thinking about that as well.
Yeah, I'm just a property manager here, so that those are bigger fish problems. That I don't have the answer on that one.
yeah.
I can help you with management related stuff, but that's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't have that problem either. We're brokies. No.
Yeah, so part of me
Oh
is
man.
like manage less and just deal with my own stuff. But no, I enjoy it. But yeah, constantly thinking about changing the portfolio of just like the property management side and my own for sure.
Yeah, I think like where you're also at in a phase of business, and I think like I've experienced this too, is like when you're at the like you can do everything yourself around 10 to 15, and then that's to me that's like the ideal of like, okay, now I make enough money, VA is not that bad of an expense. So we do that 10 to 15. Then I think there's another transition that takes place like 25, 30. Maybe you're experiencing this, maybe not, where it's like, okay, like I've got to figure out how I can actually have a manager or I can eliminate myself because there's probably a lot of stuff that you're doing that you need to not be doing. But also it's expensive to maybe hire a US based employee to start being like your operations manager that lives in the area that can run the PMS or like that kind of stuff, like a jack of all trades, I guess. But I think it's like it's that awkward phase where you've got to make enough money to where you can afford to pay someone like this. So it seems like maybe going through your portfolio and adding the right ones and maybe pumpkin planting a few to be more profitable, or maybe you make enough money now to where you could kind of pull yourself out of the weeds. But long story short, I guess my question is like, what is like the bottleneck or what's the thing that you're facing in your business that you think is the biggest challenge if you wanted to go from 30 to 45, 50, 60? What's holding you back from doing that?
Yeah, I would say it's hard to find good people, yeah, when I think about the bottleneck, I think about the cleaners. I have probably 4 or 5 different crews, some better than others, some are still trying to do linens on site. So I would say that's the constant issue of, do I bring cleaning in house? But then I'd have to have someone manage all those. I wish I have a crew that I love, but I just can't give them all the work. They would just be too busy. And so I would say just the bandwidth, and then yeah, constantly saying, it would be nice to have someone else local, um, and that sort of thing. Or do I need maintenance in house? So that's one thing I'm constantly thinking about. And while I'm kind of cautious too, because if I scale as quick as I did this first year, then I'm like, the other ones are going to suffer. And so I want everybody to be super successful. One thing that I wouldn't say that I pitch anybody, but one thing that I talk about is I don't want to just sign up a bunch of people and like hope that some of them do good. I want them all to be successful. Like, it costs me money, time, and energy per month to have your listing. Like, I'm not just going to have it listed on the different platforms and not do anything. If you're not doing well, I'm not doing well. So I put 100% in all of these listings. And so I think about that as well as I continue to grow is, yeah, what resources do I need?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's what I try to explain to him. It's like sometimes people act like, oh, well, you're just putting on Airbnb and you're just letting it sit there, and you're like, no, there's like a lot of things that I have to do. Like I have to go check the rates. I have to make sure the rates are right. I have to double check. Well, there's this event you don't know about that I know about that Price Labs doesn't know about, or whatever the case may be, or the chaos of, oh, we're gonna pay more now on Airbnb for the host percentage, and now we have to figure that out, right? Or permitting or whatever. So it's like there's a lot more work into it than people think, and I feel like you're just doing everything you can to give them 100%, and that's fantastic. And I think if you're going to learn to grow, I think you want to. I mean, I'm just putting words in your mouth. That's what I do. That you just want to methodically grow to where you can provide the same level of service that you're providing now, right? And not let those people down. And I think that's the hardest thing about this business is that, and that's the whole thing with the no part too, right? You don't want to let people down. You don't want to let your guests down. You don't want to let your owners down. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, the owner can't be helped. I have to let them down. It is what it is. But you have to talk yourself up to that, right? So it's tough because and you look at it too, like you'll see like the people you'll get clients from, and you'll see like they're just so big. Like even Austin said earlier in the episode, they're just so big they just couldn't handle it. But it's like there is a way to get so big and handle it correctly to where it needs to happen. And if it happens that way, you would be the number one name in the, industry or area or whatever in the case may be. Because, when I see people who have like 100 listings and they like get like a 4.94 overall, I'm like, Jesus, like that's impressive to me. Like that's super impressive, right? Like you want to provide the same level of service. I do too. And I'm like that too. I try to methodically think it like I have a cleaner in Houston and she's fantastic. And I was like, have you ever thought about, running a cleaning business, like managing cleaners and stuff? Like, I'd like to bring you maybe in house someday. And she's like, yeah, no, I don't want to manage people. I'm like, shit, you clean so good. Like you're the best cleaner in the world. She'll like text me and be like, hey, clean all the baseboards. She's like, the trash can was dirty when I took it out, so I cleaned it off. And I'm like, okay, thanks. You didn't have to wash the trash can. Like, I'll pay you extra. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's like, it's crazy. So it's like, yeah, what do you do, right? At that
Yeah,
point.
well, what I found is, you'll find people like that and you love them. And you're like, you give them more and more properties. But the problem is I'll start checking all those properties because I'm like, wait, we've got a lot of turns in one day. And so then I walk in and it's not them cleaning. It's someone else that they've hired, some couple. And I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, oh, no, I'm bringing by amenities. They just getting started, blah, blah, blah. Well, then you start getting complaints.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, Mary, like I hired you to clean.
Yeah.
They're not at the same standard. So that's what I talk about. Like, growing has its own sort of issues and problems.
Yeah. And I think like for your point, do you use multiple points of contact for cleaning? Like, or do you just have one person you rely on all 25 units?
Yeah. So I have 4 or 5 different crews and I have them assigned sort of by area. Is kind of how I have it today. And so some of them I supply like all the amenities and they stock them. Others they're supplying it, but that's something that, I'm going through right now is how do we get like a uniform look? I walked into one and it was interesting because I thought at first it's nice that they're providing the amenities. I don't have to worry about stocking. They're providing them. But then I walk in and it's another brand. It's another company like shampoos and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, I do the same exact
at first
thing.
You said you were going to provide this, and now we're, these don't even match, or it's a different brand. So it's like, just keeping an eye and making your standards. But I've probably fired 2 or 3 different cleaners just this past summer. I mean, I go through them, and so that's something on the back of my mind too is, do I need inspectors? Because they could be the best cleaner in the world, but when they get busy and they've got 7 turns in a day, or they're trying to do linens on site. I mean, so much could happen, and so just the summers are nuts.
Yeah, you need some meticulous. Yeah, I do that. I'll do all the supplies, like toiletries and everything, because I want the same toilet paper everywhere, the same coffee, the same everything, because I want to know that if you stay here and then you stay over there, you're gonna be like, okay, the same stuff is here. That's important to me as well. I think that it's just, I just like, I don't know. I'm just one of those people. Like I had this one cleaner always be like, look, if you don't like fill this soap by the time, like when you leave this time, I'm going to hire a new cleaner who will fill it because I want it filled every time. And she's like, doesn't make any sense.
So you want it filled to the top?
Yeah. And she's like, it doesn't make any sense. I said, it absolutely does make sense. She's like, why? I said, because when you walk in, it feels like no one's ever been there. If the bottle's halfway empty, then what? I'm going to be like, oh yeah, somebody else was here. And then I'm going to be like, is the toilet dirty? I'm going to start questioning it, just in my mind, So it's like, I want it, like, if it's clear, if that container is clear, or whatever the case may be, it needs to be filled. If it's visible, it needs to be filled. I don't know. You ever been to a hotel and you pick up the soap bottle, it's like halfway full and you're like, that's kind of weird. I don't know. It just messes with my head. So it's like, I want it filled every time.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. What you pick up on, and as I do walks, I don't like walk every turn because there's just no way.
Not possible.
Yeah. As I'm checking in and they don't know that I'm coming, I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't the toilet paper that we buy, or this isn't like our sheet. Like, it's interesting. I was talking to my friend. She hired this cleaner and had like a long list of things that were wrong. Like this figurine was in the wrong direction and this pillow wasn't in the right thing. And I was like, you kind of got to pick your battles with these people because good work is hard to find.
Yeah.
So if it's not the right toilet paper, maybe the next one will be the toilet paper. But the major stuff we definitely talk about. But I've just learned to sort of pick my battles with some of my team, because you don't want to be sort of that disruptor every single time you're coming in and looking at stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then send them the good reviews as well. I try to say, hey, this one says it was super clean, way to go. And so I try not to bring them only the bad news or stuff that I'm complaining about.
Yeah, actually, in my messaging, like when I'm asking them for a review, I'll tell them like, hey, PS, if the cleaner did a great job, if you say something about cleanliness, we'll give them a little bonus. So we'll get a lot of people to give us a lot of mention about cleanliness as well, because it's very important when you're going to stay somewhere, right? So that's kind of a little pro tip, but at least if you want cleanliness to be throughout your thing. But I think
I love that.
It's pretty important to people. But yeah, so anyway, it's been an hour and we could probably still ask you more questions and talk forever. And this was actually pretty cool because she was asking us questions, Austin. We should actually have people on to ask us questions because we're not good at asking each other questions. But Chelsea, thank you so much for coming on. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you and follow you and get all the answers that you give. And yeah, we really appreciate you coming.
Yeah, so I would say Instagram or Facebook, Chelsea Cutrer, or 30A 5-star properties. And thank you guys for having me on. It's been a ton of fun and it was great catching up.
We've been waiting for you to get on. Me and Austin have talked about it several different times. So,
100%.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, Austin.
All right. Thank y'all for listening. Peace.